A young boy, destined for greatness.
Here we are in the 70s. Diddly-doo.
A young boy so brilliant, he dazzled all those he came into contact with.
We're doing what I tell you.
He was a born entertainer as he discovered the power of video games.
It's the Royal Rumble on Genesis. Oh, thank you.
He found a way to harness that same power for good, changing the lives of millions with his infectious passion and drive. That boy had become a man. That man had become an icon. And that icon would one day interview some guy called Greg Miller at PAX East for some reason. It was a sideways move for sure, but the icon in question, Ben Starr, that's who we were talking about, really enjoyed doing charity work. And Greg Miller seemed like he really needed the exposure. That trending gamer award he won at the Game Awards nearly a decade ago, I might add, sure was looking mighty dusty. Ben wasn't getting paid for this or anything. He made money doing other things, cool things, certainly cooler than this, in his real job, acting and moving millions. Like in the modern masterpiece, Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Not like Smelly Greg, who, by the looks of things, was really quite poor. Obviously, we don't completely know his financial situation, but it was, just sort of a hunch. You can see it in his sad eyes. So please, welcome to the stage, one of the most dynamic entertainers in the video game industry, Ben Starr, and the guy he's been asked to babysit for an hour, Greg Miller.
Hello, how are you? One person, good, fine. Hi, I'm the dynamic entertainer Ben Starr, and here is my child for the 1 hour that we're here.
When he said he wanted a meeting with Roger, I knew I was in trouble.
Yeah.
I didn't exactly know what they would do and plan, but that was it. That was the intro for my keynote.
Thank you to Roger for doing all that hard work. And thank you all for coming. My name is Ben, and this is...
Greg Miller. Hey, everybody, how are you? What's up, PAX East? Woo!
Today is pretty flexible. You just messaged me saying, hey, Ben, do you want to talk to me for an hour? And I went, yes.
I think it's worth noting, Ben and I have rehearsed nothing. Of course, it came along that PAX East was like, hey, do you want to do the keynote, the Storytime? And I said, of course, what an honor. I've obviously loved PAX since the first PAX East I went to. You have been an amazing community, obviously, my entire career, but specifically the PAX East panel and the PAX East community has been, please cheer yourselves, incredible. And some of my most cherished video game convention memories. So when they said, we've had success with the fireside chat before.
Yeah.
I said, all right, that's a great idea. Let me hit up some of my famous friends. And when they weren't ready, I said, Ben Starr, are you going to PAX? He said, yes, I am.
The thing is, though, Greg promised me a fire, and there isn't a fire. So I'm like, this is pretty rubbish. Thank you for coming and sitting here. We are literally just raw dogging this bad boy for your entertainment. Let's start. That little amazing video that I made.
Roger. Shout out to Roger Picorni back home in San Francisco. It's kind of funny.
You were a weird kid.
What makes you say that? We brought the computer just for B-roll that we could do on the fly. I knew you did something with my kid, so if we want to show up, this kid wasn't weird at all if this is working, if it's showing up. Because I don't see it down here on the monitors. They warned us that'd be bad if we didn't see the monitors.
Anyway, you were a weird kid.
No, I wasn't. I just always knew that I was destined for greatness.
This is kind of the question that I really wanted to open with.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were destined for something? It's very easy to, see where you are now and look back. And when you always see those very famous people and a teacher says, I knew they were always going to be something.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, did you think, I'm going to do cool stuff?
Yes. I don't think I thought I was going to do this. The keynote at PAX East kind of thing. Yeah. But I realized early on that, nowadays, you would say that I was podcasting in my childhood bedroom.
Yeah.
Where I was just an only child doing shows by himself. Now we've got it if you want to show
There
how
he
this
is.
weird kid, you remember this guy. It was that idea that I was in my room entertaining myself, whether I was recording it or not recording it.
Yeah.
And I always knew that I wouldn't have an office job, quote unquote. I always knew that that wasn't going to be for me, but I didn't know what it was going to be.
So you were just inherently
Yeah.
You were inherently creative, right? So
I thought you said creepy, but yes,
Yeah.
both creative and creepy, yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're very, very creepy. And this is obviously where you got your love of Satan from.
Yeah.
It's you say Satan a lot. I feel so bad for Christians. But I don't feel bad for them. They've got a great life. Also, anyone, if you're not watching this, I'm assuming you're just watching The Chimney right now. The Pope. Pray for him. Okay. Yeah, and so you say you weren't destined for that kind of a normal job, and yet then, why journalism? What was that kind of made you...
Journalism was strictly to get into games journalism. Journalism
Really?
was strictly to go write for EGM. That was the dream, you know what I mean? In the 4th grade, I had that issue of Game Pro. Cover, Death and Return of Superman. Inside, Maximum Carnage. Read it cover to cover every night for a month. It finally dawned on me adults got paid to write it. Marched into the kitchen, told Mom I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to write about games, and she said okay, and Dad said okay.
So basically, you're saying it's kind of you were relentless.
Yeah, but I was talking to Jen the other day about this, where it's like, I don't know any other way.
Yeah.
In the same way I didn't know I was a weird kid podcasting in my head, because even now, when I start giggling on In Review, and Andy's like, what? And I'm like, I'm having a better podcast in my head. That's how I think. That's how my internal monologue works. It was the same way of I didn't understand that not everyone knew in the 4th grade what they wanted to do with their lives. That was crazy for me to get to college and have friends and girlfriends and people who were just like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. Nothing makes me happy. I don't know what to chase. And to meet people now who have let the naysayers in early on and stopped them from chasing a dream and becoming a thing.
It is. I mean, from my point of view, it's relentless. I wanted to be an actor from when I was from 5 maybe, and it was nothing else.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of people that kind of come up to me and ask those kind of questions. How do you get into it? It's I don't know. I just always knew that I was going to be that.
Right.
And it's about balancing that level of arrogance, I think.
Sure.
And it is.
Yeah,
a level of
no.
arrogance, and I think you have to have that.
I remember distinctly after I graduated Mizzou with the journalism degree and EGM, 1UP, IGN, nobody would touch me with a 10-foot pole. I remember I got the job at the daily newspaper, and I was at a tailgate with some of my college buddies and their families, and Parker's dad, who has always been a big supporter, came over and he's like, Miller, congratulations on the job. I'm like, yeah, thanks so much. And his first question, I guess, was, how does this get you closer to writing about video games?
Yeah.
And I was taken aback by it, because a very interesting question that makes sense, but I didn't understand that he couldn't see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, oh, they have a magazine, I'm gonna start writing here and eventually get a column and a blog and a thing and da-da-da.
I think when you have a career like yours, it's very easy to kind of think big picture, being you're here and then you're here. It'd be very easy, because I said at the beginning we were going to start about something else, but now we're still kind of going through the weeds a little bit, because actually the journey is minuscule in a weird way. It's those tiny baby steps that you don't see. And I don't know, so you were just this is it, and then it's IGN. How did IGN happen?
Oh man, IGN happened because I was relentless, not knowing there was any other way to do it. The story goes that it was my 13th attempt to get hired at IGN on my post-college email address. So I had a Mizzou.edu account that I'm sure I sent thousands, dozens, whatever, emails to IGN about all the time.
Yeah.
But I lost that when I graduated. And so my Gmail, my 13th application to IGN is the one I got hired on.
What's your email address?
Thank you. No. Let's go to the B-roll.
Sorry.
No, but it was the idea that the first dozen, I didn't even get the courtesy of a rejection letter. Not even a, hey, we've received this and you're not right for the job. Just a dozen into the ether and no response. Mm-hmm. And then the 13th one, I got contacted, interviewed, and hired all within 24 hours. So overnight, my dreams came true. My life changed.
What was it on the 13th time?
Great question. That's what
Thank you so. I'm so good at this.
Round of applause for Ben Starr. Not just a pretty face.
And I haven't even done any work. Literally, I'm just asking questions that are coming into my head. It's crazy.
At the end of my first day, Chris Roper, of course, the namesake of the Roper Report, if you don't know, and the man who reviewed God Hand. That's his review.
Yep.
Everyone knows him for. At the end of the first day, Roper was like, I'm going home. Any questions? And I go, yeah, why now?
Yeah.
And he went, what do you mean? I'm like, why now? I've been trying to get in here since college, let alone a year and a half out. And he had an answer. He said, oh, you proved you could do it.
Yeah.
I graduated and thought the Mizzou journalism degree would be a golden ticket, and it would get me in anywhere.
Yeah.
And the problem was I had slacked off. I had written the review of The Sims 2 for Vox Magazine, and I had this thing here, blog that I did here, but Roper's like, there was 6 months between that, 4 months between this, that, there, you know what I mean? He's like, you weren't doing it. But after that year at the paper, I finally wore them down, and they gave me Game Over, which was my column that was weekly in my column that was weekly in my blog that I made daily. They didn't give a shit, but I made it daily. And he was like, you proved you had a voice, you could do it, you talked every day, you were talking about this, and it was like, oh man, like it was such a, you need to be doing it. And that's what I've told everybody if you've been following me for years and had this conversation with me at a meet and greet, right? Like, if you want to do this, it is totally possible, but you need to be doing it now, especially now. Because think about that. I was just to cut you off. I don't care about your questions anymore. I always say 24 hours, contacted. Literally, Jeremy Dunham emailed me, hey, do you want to do an interview tomorrow? Yes, interview tomorrow. On the way to Kansas City that night, I was hired. I remember those final years at IGN where it would be, we are doing SWOT interviews. We've flown this candidate in, they've done the 3 phone interviews, now they go into a boardroom and we come in teams of 4 and we ask them questions for an hour and we, like, do they fit the vibe? Are they this? Are they knowledgeable people? We'd sit there and they didn't know this was it was always Colin. They didn't know this was a first-party PlayStation student, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I remember coming back from demos at IGN in 2007. Craig Harris, of course, vaulted name, legacy name at IGN, basically a founder, and of course did more than 1,000 handheld video game reviews. I'd sit at my desk and he would lean over, how was the game? Oh, it was good, it's X, Y, and Z. Who's the developer? I looked at my notes, I didn't write it down. Oh, I don't know. What did they work on? I don't know. He's like, that matters. You need to know that matters. And it was still hilarious now because we're all so ingratiated in the industry. But it was a time where you didn't think that, I didn't think that way of like, oh, well, it's a PlayStation game, or this is, EA published it, EA made it. It didn't matter if it was EA Tiburon or EA whoever.
I mean, like, jumping around a little bit,
Please.
2025, very, very, very different time.
Sure is.
But I feel it is a different time, and we will get onto that a little bit later. But I think what you're talking about is like you're making mistakes on the fly, right? You're making mistakes, and you really were very much at IGN at a time when the industry was kind of figuring out how to represent itself.
Sure.
And you were very much a kind of key figure in that.
Yeah.
How did you become Greg Miller?
Great question as well. There's 2 answers. I am only here, and I am only Greg Miller, as you know me, because of you. And of course, you in this room, but more importantly, you watching at home, and probably more important than that, the people who have lapsed and moved on and don't consume what would have been GameScoop or Podcast Beyond or that. That is an outrageous thought that 18 years ago, I got to go to work at IGN, know nothing, and was put on the biggest video game podcasts. I was Damon's second banana on GameScoop for many years. Then, of course, like 4 months in, 6 months in, I'm a founder of Podcast Beyond with Dunham, Roper, and Jeff. And all of a sudden, like, we were doing something that nobody above us understood. The amount of times we were in meetings where they were like, we should cancel podcasts. We should just go back to GameScoop. It was always man hours, right? We're sending 4 of you in there, an hour a piece, that's 4 hours. Somebody has to edit it and upload it, da-da-da. And this is, again, a different age. We don't know how many people are listening. We're not monetizing it. This isn't doing anything. But what it was doing was building a community. And it would be coming to PAX, PAX East, PAX West, and walking, and then suddenly having people scream Beyond, scream Scoop. We would go do these panels, Damon and I, and do these meet and greets where we're like, 10 people show up, and then suddenly we're in trouble with the bar because 100 people did, and we didn't book anything. Like, it was this groundswell that literally like in a wrestling storyline, right? Like I am that CM Punk where the business didn't want me. They desperately wanted, and this is no offense to anybody I'm about to name, but they wanted Jessica Chobot to be the face of IGN, right? They didn't understand that Greg Miller could be. But it was this groundswell that suddenly mattered and then suddenly started to carry over into reviews or appearances or guest spots or whatever. And then the big changes up at noon.
Well, how did you manage that then? So I think maybe what you're describing is this idea of there was a level of friction there about where your positioning was. Did you ever feel like you came into combat? How did you navigate it so you were able to, without being a complete dickhead, get to where you are? Because I think there is often this belief that in order to achieve, it's not enough that I must succeed, others must fail.
Yeah.
How do you get to that point where you are still likable and you're still nice, but you're still like getting to that point where you go, no, I want to be number one? Or was it not even that mentality? Was it like we're all doing this together?
That's the thing, is it wasn't the mentality. I think what worked the best is that, hey, no, you're not, and this, I'm saying you're as if like somebody's talking to me. It wasn't that way. It was, hey, there's the video team and there's the editorial team.
Yeah.
And so the video team will have hosts, and that's who's going to go be the face. And you guys are writing and reviewing and previewing and going to the things and doing that. And I was so happy to do that job that it wasn't until GameScoop TVs and a PlayStation Conversation and all this stuff where video really crosses over into an interesting thing, and that wall falls down at IGN. And that, that was tough.
I mean, you just said, I connect you with PlayStation. When I think of PlayStation, I think you're kind of like symbiotically linked. Do you think that your popularity and the popularity of the PlayStation kind of circa around 2014, like that was a thing? Or like you tethering yourself to PlayStation, do you think the success of the PlayStation, the success of you are the same thing? Or like the popularity of those games? I mean, if I'm being honest, like I really first discovered you around the time that Uncharted was like really at its peak, right?
Sure.
Your Uncharted 3 review, I remember was the first one I went to on IGN.
And fuck you all, it was a 10.
It was a 10, I know.
It being a 10 doesn't take away from Uncharted 2. They didn't let me review Uncharted 2. I'm sorry Roper didn't give that a 10.
You also said in that review, I remember you said a masterpiece doesn't mean it's perfect. And I think that's
which was a struggle for a long time at IGN, and still is obviously in the space when you were.
But how do you juggle that? Like review scores, what do you think of them?
I think they're great. I think they serve a purpose. I think people take them far too seriously.
Yeah.
I think that is like, to this day, still such a problem of, we live in a golden age, and I know I'm saying this while many of the pillars fall down around us, of video game criticism, right? And I do mean in the way that you are all so much more educated than Greg Miller was 18 years ago when he was reviewing games. And it's us and it's you watching, and it's people who don't care about me and aren't watching this at all. But it's like, you can go and find it and I found this person who was over on TikTok who plays the kind of games I like. So their opinion about this thing that I normally wouldn't play means more than the blanket IGN, it's a 7, it's a 10, it's a whatever. And so I think, review scores need to be looked through that lens, but people just want to fight all the time, and there's so many more big things for us to fight about than this.
But they do.
Yeah.
They do. Like, this isn't a 9, this is a 7, and what does a 7 even mean?
Yeah.
But like, I think that, we're kind of funny, you really juggled around review scores. You didn't use review scores for a really long time.
For a long time.
You went to the 5-point scale and the 10-point scale.
Yeah.
Why did you, if it doesn't mean anything, why did you move to them?
Well, I didn't say it doesn't mean anything. All right, that's not what I said. I think review scores, in any shape or form, facilitate discussions.
Yeah.
When we were adamant about not doing review scores when we started Kind of Funny, it was very much the hangover of IGN. It was, we're sick of fighting. We're sick of people in the comments coming in and saying that it isn't a 9, it isn't this, blah, blah, blah. And so we thought by removing them, we would remove that level of commenter.
Yeah.
Listeners, we did not remove that level of commenter, let alone the fact that we were then sitting there being like, I really liked it. On the IGN scale, we naturally started going into that way of trying to give you a snapshot opinion. And so then when we added the review scale originally, we were very much like, this is not because we think we need to be Metacritic verified, any of that stuff. Yeah. It's strictly because we want to be included in Shinobi's tweets, in Nibel's tweets. We want people to know we're out there in the same conversation, hitting the same embargo, having the same deadline. It's about billboarding us to get you to come find the content.
And you're very clear about it. Like in your your reviews, it's always, this is the score, and then this is why we think the score is there.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that on review websites, it's the review and then the score. I think sometimes it is better to have the score at the top, and then so we can actually have the discussion underneath about what it actually means.
Yeah.
I mean, review scores are a very bizarre thing, and you said it's a golden age of criticism. I think that 2025 is a very different space where we're in. We're all trying to figure out how we feel about review scores in games. But let's go to a big point in your career.
Okay.
The one that I mentioned in the video, 2015.
I got it.
Get it up. Get it up.
Oh, you can keep going. You said
there
we weren't,
it is. No,
you
there
said
we
we weren't going to talk about the B-roll runs.
No, but this is you winning the Trending Gamer Award in 2015.
Thank you. Many of you weren't born.
You beat out some massive people for this award.
I did.
You did.
Yeah.
You beat out Markiplier, PewDiePie, Total Biscuit, and you won. But I asked you earlier when we were just going to do the mic check, did you think you were going to win? And you said...
Yes. It isn't as conceited as it sounds. It was the idea that, as I already have talked about, I'll toss it back to y'all. It's because of you. If you remember, and as you're about to hear Sean Layden call out that this was voted on by the fans, and this was a public vote. So when we were driving, I mean, remember, this is 2015. This is year one of Kind of Funny. This is Garbage Truck on Fire to its fullest, but it's also Lex Luger slamming Yokozuna. Like, we were doing it. We couldn't believe it. You couldn't believe it. It was incredible. And so it was like every day. You can vote every day. Did you vote today? Vote today. Like, we were out there pounding the pavement, fully knowing that if PewDiePie or Markiplier caught wind of it, they could go, oh, hey, everybody vote for me today, and it's over.
Yeah.
So it was literally, we could see the percentages, and I was always way ahead because nobody was paying attention. And then day of, I was like, I think I landed, and I checked my phone, and it was on maybe the Kind of Funny message board, or I don't think we had a Reddit yet. Maybe we did. Somewhere there was, Jeff just did a live stream, and somebody asked if Greg's still winning, and he said he believes he is. And so I was completely prepared for it not to happen, but I thought that we had the numbers as long as nobody woke up to it. And the epilogue to that is that years later at a VidCon, I'd never met Markiplier. Years later at VidCon, he was in line, we were backstage and he was getting food. And I walked over and I was like, hey Markiplier, my name's Greg Miller, how are you? And he was very not engaging. And I'm sure he's a nice person, we all have our bad days. And I was like, oh, and the only way I thought to introduce myself was like, I beat you for an award once. And he went, what award? And I was like, the Game Awards. And he's like, I never remember. And I'm like, all right, bye. And we never talked again. I walked away.
But like, you talk about it like it still means something. At the time, what did it mean to you to win?
Oh, I mean, the Game Award means everything to me to this day. And to then, I mean, like, again, it is crazy to be here. My life is an embarrassment of riches. I have done more than I ever would have dreamed of in this industry that I love and have always loved and always wanted to be a part of it. But it's always been that I don't think of myself as being on that stage. I don't think of myself as being on this stage. I think of myself as talking about video games to my friends. Mm-hmm. And so when we launched January 5th, 2015, and it is a runaway success, and it blows past all of our expectations, and we're invited to go on GameSpot the next day, which doesn't sound crazy today, but back then, and IGN person on GameSpot, and you know, I was looking through, I was deleting, you know, we're getting ready to take off, but you can't do any of the fun stuff yet. So I was like, I'm gonna clean out my photos, and I ran into a screenshot of Patrick Klepek, and it was him tweeting at me on the day of launching the Patreon of like, dude, impressive. Thanks for blazing this trail, and to now think where we are. But 2015, we launched, and it's crazy, and it's better than I ever could have imagined. And rather than getting fewer opportunities like I was so worried about, we get infinitely more. So to go all the way through that year and get to this moment, to be on that stage. I remember the year before when Total Biscuit won it, and it was Game Awards 1. And I remember being there in Vegas, because it was after PSX, and it was Jeff Gerstmann was in the running. And I wanted Jeff to win so bad because I knew Jeff so well, and he didn't, and he lost Total Biscuit. And I was like, it's still cool that one of us got nominated. Yeah. And so to be there a year later, get that, have a moment like this where the industry has to see us, even if you hadn't seen it, even if you hadn't understood what Patreon was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you got to see us for a split second. And, you know, I nailed the speech. I was so happy to pay it forward. Again, I don't belong up here now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't belong up here now. I don't belong hosting the Mafia panel in 2 hours, right? That
Great promo.
Huh?
Great promo for the Matthew panel.
Thank you for
coming in
everything.
2
Hang
hours.
out.
Make sure to tune in.
You got nothing else going on. It's bad. It's that thing of the devs and the people who create games are the ones who should be here. It's a crying shame that games take so many people that there's going to be so many Nicole Tans that are names that just go by.
Did you ever meet Nicole Tan?
I did, yeah. It was a very special moment. I won this, and then GDC that spring, she came through.
How did you find Nicole?
Literally what I say in the thing. When I knew I was on track to win this, and I was like, well, what do I want to do with this moment?
Yeah.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime moment because I've never been nominated again. I don't know what else I need to do. Well, actually, I'm one of the few that dodged the curse, so you know what? Don't nominate me again. I was on the track, and I was like, what do I want to do this? And I wanted to put into words the year of, it's awesome that we have found success doing this, and so many people know us, but it's a crying shame that you don't know the devs. And it's not you or me, the gamer, like, again, hundreds of people. How do you know it? Mm-hmm. So I had beaten Rise of the Tomb Raider, and when it was scrolling through, I looked and I caught the name Nicole Tan, and I searched it, and there she was. And she was not a nobody, but she was. I almost, there's a alternate reality where I also beat Batman, whichever Arkham it was then. And I looked through that, and I was like, oh, there's somebody. I'd love to give them recognition. And I Googled it, and they had just won a personal BAFTA. And I'm like,
okay,
hey,
great,
nope. You got your recognition.
Yeah.
You don't need this. You're ruining the point.
I feel like, how do I phrase this? This speech, in 2025, I feel like it's a speech that still needs to be said.
Sure.
And do you feel like it made any difference, you going up and saying that? Do you feel like your words, as wonderful as they were, they had an impact? Or did you feel like it was, like a lot of people say, just saying words for the sake of words? Do you feel like what you're doing has an impact?
Yes, I think what we do has an impact. Is it magnificent? Is it changing games? Yep. No. I think, we attract a very specific listener or viewer, and that's somebody who wants to engage games this way.
Yeah.
There's still I always talk about this on the show, right? Like, even though we feel like this is humongous and PAX is humongous, we're still such a small piece of the pie that plays games.
But you said this, was it Patrick Klepek saying you're blazing a trail?
Sure.
It really was at the time that you did it. You inspired a lot of people to do that. I would also say that, in today, do you think Kind of Funny is possible today?
You mean, do I think 4 people could leave their jobs at a cushy.com, maybe named Dan, Jeff, Minotti? No. You can woo that. You can woo that. It's a yes and no answer.
Yeah.
I think 2015 Kind of Funny, yes, is possible.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people look at 2025 Kind of Funny and say, oh, well, that's impossible.
Yeah.
A state-of-the-art, 5,000 square feet studio in San Francisco, 11 full-time employees, contractors around the globe, right? That's strictly crowdfunded advertising, sponsorships, merchandise. We have a whole bunch of pillars, right? But we don't have a corporate overlord over us that is saying, can we make it PG? Can we do X, Y, and Z? Yeah. There's a 10-year journey for Kind of Funny to get from point A to point B. And so I think in 2015, yes. I'm sorry, the 2015 version of Kind of Funny, yes, you could still do, but it is harder. Let's not lie. There's if we inspired it or not, there's so many more people doing this. And how many Patreon dollars are there to go around? How many YouTube subscriptions and Amazon Primes on Twitch can there be? I, so far, haven't seen it blow up in our faces. And I mean that as people doing this, not strictly Kind of Funny. Because I have always been prepared for the other shoe to drop. And for us, when we did this and it was great and it was incredible, and then Danny did it. And I was like, oh, fuck. Oh, shit, he's really popular. Is that, are our numbers going to go down because people moved their $5 to $10 over there? Yeah. They didn't. Easy Allies. Oh, man, is that, oh, they didn't. And then, company after company after company, group after group after group. Yeah. And so I think right now, in especially this moment, where clearly our side of the industry, or even, I guess, the adjacent side of this industry that is Enthusiast Press, Polygon, whatever the fuck's happening at Giant Bomb, it's a down note right now. Yeah. And so I think it is easy to be like, well, there's just too many fish in the pond, but we haven't seen that yet. And I think, again, the power that we unlocked in 2015 was the big companies, the publishers, the developers, the audience, they all understand micro communities. You know, I'm always laughed out of the room usually when I'm like, oh, well, we're a small company, we're a small group, right? And I mean, we don't have 1 million YouTube subs, right? We aren't bringing out 1 million views on a thing. You say that, and then of course there's somebody who only gets 100 views, and they're like, okay, come on, don't. But it's like, then I look at our friends who are getting, 1 million views, and it's like, there's this scale to it, but the number doesn't matter because the audience matters, and the fact that y'all are so supportive, and when we say, hey, like, you notice right now we're running an ad for Imperial, a great video game, that you should go and wishlist, right? That's all the ad is. The ad is go wishlist it because it helps indie devs. Like, that is from our GDC streams. And those devs saying, oh my God, I can't tell you how helpful it is when you say that because your audience does that. Again, looking through the old screenshots that I didn't delete, there's a Klepek one, and then there's a Mike Biffle one, where he's going, oh man, Kind of Funny's audience really showed up, because he was one of our first sponsors on Patreon. He did it for volume, and you all went and bought it, you listened to it, you support it. And that is so important, and that activates in so many specific communities that the big guys still get that.
One of the wildest things I have is I have probably as many people come up to me and say, you're Ben Starr from Kind of Funny. They've never played any game that I'm a part of, but they just know me from the stuff that I do with you guys, which is crazy because I feel like we have an amazingly loyal community. The amount of like Kind of Funny best friends just come in and they're like, oh my God, you're a best friend too. And it's almost like you have created a very kind, wonderful open. It almost feels like a benign cult in a way.
Sure.
Like it does because there's a shorthand. There's just so many little beautiful things that you've created that feel so personal, and people feel like they know you because you've lived your life, man. You've lived your life in front of these people, for better and for worse. And I'm like, maybe I would say, do you ever feel like you've given too much of yourself away to other people?
No. What are you talking about? Hold on. Not at all. I want to, here you go. Stephanie Tinsley is a video game PR person. Many of you probably don't know unless you're doing codes and stuff. She had hit me up, it turned out a year pretty much to the date of this Polygon story, the Greg Miller story, where she was like, your audience is so awesome that it's borderline cultish, but they're a good cult, and somebody should write about that. And then a year later, Colin Campbell for Polygon wrote about it and put that out there, and I thought that was so kismet, if you want to show the thing, if you can, that happened. Do I think I've given? No, it's back to the conversation I had at the start of this, where it's just, I don't know how else to do this. You know what I mean? And again, I'm the way I always describe it to people, as humbly as possible. I start with, when somebody catches wind of what's going on, usually a normal person, now one of Ben's friends' parents, like, so you're famous. And I'm like, to a very small group of people, I'm a very big deal. That's, you know what I mean? But I have the kind of fame I imagine so many people want, and I mean it from people who are way more famous than me and that aren't famous. And I'm talking internet famous. Come on, you're in a panel. I'm not conceited, I swear. But it's the idea of when I bump into y'all at a restaurant on the streets of San Francisco, whatever, it's, oh, holy shit, Greg Miller. Hey, man, what's up? How you doing? Oh, man, what are you playing? Oh, I've been playing this. All right, cool. You want a photo? No. All right, bye. And we go our separate ways. So it's like, it's not weird. Yesterday, I went and previewed Hell Is Us up in Montreal. Can't wait to tell you about it on an upcoming Kind of Funny Gamescast. Like, subscribe, share. And on the way out, I bumped into a Twitch streamer that I've known here and there, but mainly internet contact, and maybe 2 events before. And then he's like, oh, by the way, is Ben feeling better? And, I know he was sick. And he's like, I'm sorry, that was kind of creepy. I'm like, no, I put that out there, right? Like, to be honest, this isn't me, Ben. It's your son, Ben, right? My adorable son, Ben. Everybody knows Benjamin. And I was like, no, I put that out there, and I talk about that. Like, that's how I know how to do this. Yeah. And since you all get that, especially with Ben, like, I think that's so interesting.
Was there ever worry that you have a child growing up? How did you balance that thinking? How much am I going to include him in the community? How much am I going to allow him to be his life to be a part of other people's lives as well?
Yeah, the long and short of it is it's his choice. I just did that show in Chicago a few weeks ago now, a month ago. Millie Ramsey came on, of course, Jeff Ramsey's daughter from Achievement Hunter fame, and she's 19, 20 now. She's living in Chicago. She's going to university. And I brought her on specifically to talk about what was it like to grow up in front of a camera in this company called Rooster Teeth and have this relationship and da-da-da. And she gave a lot of feedback and a lot of interesting stories and stuff to it, but it lines up with what Jen and I have been doing, of like, it's going to be his choice what he wants. Yeah. You know, we've been very protective of not putting his face on Instagram, on Blue Sky, or whatever. And there are exceptions to that rule, but they're because we let him make the exception. Now, granted, this kid does not know what Instagram is or anything like that, but like when you see him walk on set during a live stream, I'm never going to stop him from doing that because I'm worried about his face. I want him to have agency of what he's doing. So when he walks out, he's watching right now. Yeah, it might still be watching, might be on his way to preschool. But it's that idea of like, he has that agency to be a part of it. I don't ever want Ben to be a prop. Yeah. I don't want Ben to be, all right, oh, come on, I'll wear this costume because I'm doing this thing and it'll be great. When he says, do you want to dress as Ghostbusters and go to Costco? I say, yes, I do. Yeah. Yes, I do, son, let's go. But it's like that vibe of it. And so as he gets older and understands more and more of that, that'll be it. You know, do I daydream? I'm sure the same way my father daydreamed about me coming out and changing the oil on his car. I daydream about when the video game he cares about comes out, we take him off school and he comes in and streams with us or plays with us, or the first time we go to a preview event together and he actually has something to say about it. Like, I do, but I'm never going to force that on him. That'll be an idea I want him to know is available to him, but not a pressure.
Do you think when he gets older, he is going to change the way that you feel about video games? Feel the way that you interface with them in a different way?
Probably. I mean, he already has. You know what I mean? I think people, you know, there was an undercurrent, a few reviews in a row. People are like, Greg's being way too hard on games these days, and I bet it's because of Ben. Not in a bad way, but because my life's changed. And I think that he's the most important thing in Jen and I's life, right? And so there's so much power to that I think is good in terms of agency and work-life balance, which I've never had before, Jen has never had before. We are workaholics. That it did, even though I was very adamant beforehand of like, oh, I'm still going to trophy hunt. I'm still going to go get terrible trophies. I'm still going to do that. Yeah. You jump cut to he's finally asleep and it's 9:30 and I go downstairs and I'm like, I ain't going to make it to midnight. I need to play what I need to play for work or what I'm just craving to play. It isn't ZJ the Ball anymore. It isn't Platy Bird, right? Yeah. It's like there's that thing where my free time means so much more to me that I think then I am asking more of games, but I think I've always been critical to some degree to that level. Yeah. But I would say it's more evident probably.
Is there a game that you really can't wait for him to be old enough to play?
Oh man, I mean, you name it, right? Where it's like
Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker.
Oh, yes, please, come on now. Where is Volume 2, Konami? No, I jumped to, you know, the story I've told many times, but I will say it one more time here, right, was long before Ben, but I was, maybe I wasn't even with Jen yet, I don't even remember. But when Destiny 2 dropped, Donald Mustard, who is famous for Fortnite and coming out and doing all that, he put up a photo on his social that was, he had quad widescreen TVs in the basement. And it was Destiny 2, Destiny 2, Destiny 2, and some sport they were watching. And it was him and his two boys as a fire team. And I was like, come on. I never even thought about that with a kid. Yeah. So like, when I'm obsessing over Monster Hunter, I turned to Jen and I was like, do you know that if it takes as long to get the next Monster Hunter as it did this one, Ben's gonna play it with me? And like, you know, even Borderlands.
You're training your child for war, and I love that. He will kill.
And so, yeah, like I think about that all the time of what we're gonna play. I mean, we already do, right? He loves Switch games. We're playing stuff. I am very excited for Switch 2 in Mario Kart World, right? Because he loves Forza, he loves Mario Kart. I'm going to do, I've run it past Jen and I've gotten approval. You know, it's a very bad schedule where Switch has no regard for my timeline. So it comes out on Thursday, SGF Friday, go to LA to cover SGF, come back on Monday and talk about all the stuff we've played and done. Some day in there, I'm taking it off of work. And rather than take him to school, I'm going to reveal that we have the new Nintendo Switch and we have a new Mario Kart and you and I are going to play all day long. Like, I'm going to try to give him that memory that so many of us have with our parents.
Okay, cool. Right. I'm going to take a little kind of a step back and hit you with a hard question. What do you regret the most?
Oh, wow.
Genuinely.
Wow, I love that question.
What do you regret the most? Because I think it's, you know, you're sitting here, you're getting to talk to me, which is incredible for you. That's wild. You're welcome. But you're always, obviously, everything in your life has led to the moment that you are currently in at this point.
Yeah.
But and you're very thankful for your life. You seem very, very happy with where you are and what you've achieved.
Sure.
But like, there's got to be something where you look back and you go, oh, I really screwed that up.
Of
and
course
I would
there is.
do it differently.
Yeah, I love that question. Yeah.
What do you, I mean, you don't have to say it. I mean, they'll be annoyed that you don't.
Oh, they won't. Round of applause. How many people know what I'm about to say? All right, you guys got to listen to Greg Way. Jesus Christ, all right? No, I'm glad of this new content. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to regret across 18 years of this. And of course, 18 years of being on the internet and making content. And then more importantly, I think, starting at an early age, you know, your early 20s, and you're with a bunch of early 20 guys and this, that, and the other, and da-da-da-da-da, let alone just not having life experience, right? That's what I talk about all the time. And so, the big thing I think that's crazy to be here 18 years later is something I said in the Greg Way, and I mean with my whole chest and whole heart, right? Is that, stick with me, everybody, it's gonna go somewhere. Cancel culture doesn't exist. I hate when people throw this out and they say, oh, they're canceling this, oh, they're doing this, blah, 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 blah. When I was growing up as an old kid, right? I'm not gonna bother putting it up. Cancel culture was called the consequence of your actions. You do something, people react, and then guess what? You have a choice of how you react, and this all goes out, right? And so if you do something horrendous and then double down and don't understand, you don't want to have empathy for what's going on and why this is happening, da-da-da, like, no, fuck you. That's not, you didn't get canceled. You're a jerk, right? Thank you. Thank you. So my story is tied up in all of that. And so before you even get to the moment I regret the most, I would like to take you to the Me Too movement. All these horrible stories start coming out, right, of Hollywood and just women in professional fields, and just horrendous. And then it's not that I'm quantifying how horrendous something needs to be, but it's more of Jen has a story that's not she was assaulted, but this person made me feel uncomfortable, and this happened. Like, we start hearing from our peers, our friends, our wives, our girlfriends, or whatever, of like, oh, this is prevalent not only in the most outrageously what the fuck scenario you're talking about, these are everyday occurrences.
Yeah.
And I remember, whatever it was, one of our friends sharing something online. I was looking right before we went live or right after we went live with something. And I turned to Tim and I'm just like, oh man, this Me Too stuff's outrageous, right? He's like, yeah, totally. And I'm like, I just hope I've never made someone feel that way. And Tim goes, oh, you have. And I went, who, what, tell me. And he's like, no, he's like, I don't have something in the chamber. He's like, that's the point of this. We've all done this to someone and not thought about it because we've never been asked to think about this.
Yeah.
No one's ever called this out, so we've never had the chance to empathize and understand it, or really self-check. And that stuck with me so hard that I started going through everything I could think of what it was. And I came to the moment, right, that I was the most out of line, that I had no business doing this. And I, of course, did it live on camera. I did it in front of a live audience. And the moment, of course, is it's up at noon. It's San Diego Comic-Con. It's 2012. So this is pre me getting cancer. Like, this is like the first 6 months of Up at Noon, which is we're doing a YouTube show. They're throwing money at it. Go do it, Greg. This is where you go from being Greg Miller, everybody knows you as a podcast person, to my face is on the cover of IGN every day. My name is there every day, right? I liken it to when somebody, I think it was Dennis Miller, got the job at a Weekend Update on SNL. Somebody said, wow, everything's about to change for you. He's like, no, I've done a bunch of sketches. I've been on SNL. He's like, no, but now your name's there, right? Like, it was a way different thing than being, IGN gave this a review, X, Y, and Z. Anyways, Up at Noon's there, and I'm doing my best to host a late night talk show that's being written by Mike Drucker, someone who wrote for SNL and did all this stuff, and we're being funny and irreverent in this, and we're making blowjob jokes about the giraffe from fucking Resident Evil. That's a deep cut, but you know, you're gamers, you know what I'm saying. And so, like, I'm emulating Conan, I'm emulating all the people I've watched and the things, and I'm not thinking about the differences in their relationships with their guests versus mine.
Yeah.
It's Comic-Con, it is 2012. Camilla Luddington is coming on the show. Camilla Luddington had just been cast, I'm rusty on this, but just been cast as Tomb Raider in the new Tomb Raider reboot, right? Go to Camilla Luddington's IMDb when I'm told we've booked her. I go through what has she been in. All right, she's been in Californication. She's been on True Blood. She's Grey's Anatomy. And I screw this up because I've told the story and I never did the research after it. But I think it's that maybe one of her True Blood episodes had aired and maybe she had just been announced for Grey's, which if you're a Grey's fan like me is ridiculous because she's been there forever. Anyways, she comes on the show with Carl Stewart, who at the time is in charge of Crystal Dynamics and Tomb Raider, and da-da-da-da. They come out, we sit down, 3, 2, 1, we go live to record. I'm in sunglasses, I have a IGN Superman shirt on with a blazer over it. I look like wrestling heel Greg or whatever, but that is not what I'm doing. I'm trying to be this, but we're doing this show down in front of a live audience here at Comic-Con on top of the Hard Rock Hotel. Anyways. I introduced Camilla. I've known her all of 5 minutes, and we're going through, we're doing the thing, and I'm like, all right, cool. If you don't know Camilla, she's been on True Blood, she's been on Grey's Anatomy, she's been on Californication. And she goes, well, actually, and I think she's about to correct it, like, I just got blah, blah, blah. I steamroll over her, which is annoying enough, but I'm doing it to get to this joke, where I go, now, if you haven't seen her on Californication, go to Google image search, turn safe search off, and search Camilla Luddington, Californication. And she goes, oh my God, no. Place erupts with laughter. I hold for applause, mugging at the camera like an asshole, right? And Carl laughs it off too. She's like, I can't believe you just did that. I'm like, no, blah, blah. We go back, we do the interview, and I'm totally professional journalism, Greg Miller, Tomb Raider, I'm a fan, blah, blah, blah. It's great. She's awesome. I go on to host multiple Tomb Raider panels at Comic-Con, at probably a PAX. Like, I've worked with Camilla Luddington several times, and it's always, Greg, oh my God, hug, how are you? Blah, 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 catch up, blah, 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 blah. But then the Tomb Raider games stop, and then this all happens, and I have that moment of like, there was this gut check moment that I think probably everybody in this situation would have with the empathy after the fact, of like, okay, well, that happened, but she's nice to me since then. She's hugged me, she said hi, I still did Tomb Raider stuff, so she couldn't be mad at me. And then it's that thought of like, well, no, this is exactly what we're fucking talking about.
Yeah.
She couldn't yell at me on camera and tell me how fucking out of line that was, right? She has to laugh at that joke because she's there with her boss's boss representing this game, right? So she can't get me there. Then I keep getting hired to do panels, so like, I don't know what Camilla Luddington thinks of me. If she does think that I'm an asshole for that, if it was something she forgot about, but it doesn't matter. I was out of line.
Yeah.
And it's one of those I can't take back. And it's also that interesting one of, I can't easily talk to Camilla Luddington. I don't have her number. You know what I mean? So it's like this thing I've come to over the years of introspection and trying to figure it out of like, wow. And again, it's something that is, my career's littered with it. Back to cancel culture, right? Like, it is not hard to find Greg Miller not being PC. Like, there's Super Knockin' Boots exists, you know what I mean? And like, to go beyond that, reviews and things I wrote on IGN in 2007, 2008, 2009, whatever, exist. To the point I'll bring something up on a show to read. I'm like, oh, I cannot read that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, there's this and there's time and there's age and there's this, but it's the idea that like, I am human and I am striving every day to be a better person. And I think since you're all in this room, thank you so much. Like, you know that I'm striving to make your life better. Like, that is going to come with bumps in the road.
Yeah.
That's going to come with, there was a comment, now let's just go into everything I fucked up. There was two quick ones. You know, a kid wrote to me when G4 came back. When G4 came back, I got a Twitter thread at the time, and it was this guy being like, finally my comeuppance is here and I can rub this in Greg Miller's face. And he's like, shortly after G4, and it was like, shortly after G4 got canceled, it was GDC or it was PAX or it was whatever, I got up and I was only 12 and I was sheepish and I was nervous and I asked Greg if he thought anything could ever exist like G4 again, and he laughed and he turned to Danny O'Dwyer, whoever it was, and laughed like, do you have cable? And blah, blah, blah. No, G4 will never be. And it was like, reading it, I was like, well, my answer doesn't sound like I was being an asshole to you. I was probably being an asshole about G4, but it was more, you've carried this for a decade.
Yeah.
You've carried it for a decade that you don't like me because of this thing I said and handled wrong. And I got on, I was like, I'm so sorry, we made amends. It was a whole thing. It was a very cathartic moment. And then G4 failed again. But it was like clearly not what I was trying to do. Another one that stood out to me, right? Because you just don't think about it. We were joking earlier, you and me, about IGN video reviews from my day.
Yes.
When it would be, you would walk into the IGN booth, a producer like Nick Scarpino would hit record, then go to their phone, and you would just talk. There was no script. There was no whatever. You would just talk, and they would edit together. I forget which Uncharted it was. Maybe it was even just a preview. But at the end, I was like, maybe it wasn't even Uncharted, but it was something to the effect at the end, I was like, if you want to know more about desolate wastelands or paramilitary zones or something horrible like that, Google Detroit. And for everything about video games, go to IGN.com. And there was a similar one where a dude hit me up years later and was like, yo, you said this, and I don't know if you understand that at the time I read it as veiledly racist, which I did not intend, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, fuck. He's like, we were a city down on our luck, and we were trying to do all this stuff, and just to catch a stray in the middle of this review that had nothing to do with it. And I was like, that's an excellent point that I definitely didn't mean.
Well, it's a bold move because it's a power imbalance. You're like that interaction is probably one of the most significant interactions of that individual's life, and for you, it is a fleeting moment. And you, as an individual, that people have very powerful. I don't want to use the parasocial relationships with. I had a parasocial relationship with you. I watched your content for such a long time. You've been such a huge part of my life, and coming into Kind of Funny as a fan, and then also now as a colleague and a friend, it's very interesting because I've known you for a lot longer than you've known me.
Yeah.
And so I remember first meeting you, and I was like, I was so nervous because I initially thought you didn't like me when we first met because I'm reading so much into that scenario, and it's a power imbalance that you have as an individual who you look up to and you want to please. And I think you do it very well, but I think it's fascinating because you're not without opinions. You're happy just to kind of come out and say what you think. And because we only have a few minutes left, I did want to play a little game with you.
Okay.
So I went through some of your old reviews.
Here's all the horrible things you said.
Here are all the racist things you said. Got them all, and there were no. Okay. I'm going to say the name of a game.
Sure.
And you're going to tell me what you gave it.
Fuck. Okay.
Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing about IGN. They change the scoring system all the time. So sometimes it's a 100-point scale, sometimes it's a 20-point scale, and sometimes it's a 10-point.
Sure.
Let's go with, this is going to be an easy one for you. Ghostbusters, the video game.
8. That was a flat. Well, first off, everybody calm down too. Remember that there's multiple SKUs. There are multiple SKUs of these games, and I'd have to review them all. I would say I gave an 8, I remember, to like the PS3 360 version.
The PS2 version.
Fuck. Is that the one with the cartoon? Is that the one that Red whoever did? There was because they did one that was very cartoony versus the other one. Shit.
No, I think so. This is the Ghostbusters the video game, but on PS2.
Yeah, but you're sure it's not?
This is Ghostbusters the video game.
But you're sure it's not the Wii version? Because the Wii version was different than Ghostbusters.
When I read you, this is Ghostbusters the video game on PS2.
$7.2.
It's a 7.1.
Pretty good, though,
That's
right?
crazy. This is the one. Ghostbusters the video game isn't amazing on the PS2, but it's definitely not bad. Being able to blast everything off the wall, listen to Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, as well as exist in the firehouse is definitely cool. Plus, the story's solid. Okay, next one. Tales from Space, Mutant Blobs Attack for the PS Vita.
Oh, yeah. Remember, this is Drinkbox, everybody. You know them from Guacamelee. Nobody Saves the World.
This is good content.
It's great content.
This is incredible.
Let's talk about Greg's worst moments and then just pivot to him not knowing his own. I mean, I've reviewed a lot of games. I liked this. I remember liking it a lot, but it was like, I liked it a lot for what it was. 7.8?
You gave Tales from Space, Mutant Blob Attacks a 9 out of 10.
Damn.
Tales from Space, Mutant Blob Attacks stole my heart.
I love video games. What do I gotta say? You know?
It's visually delicious. The cutscenes ooze with humor, and the actual gameplay feels perfectly balanced. It won't take you too long to go through every level, but doubling back to polish off collectibles and earn gold medals will keep me playing. Plus, it's only $8 in the United States. Okay, Fruit Ninja Connect.
Oh shit! Now we're into it.
Yeah.
5.
5.5.
5. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna do 2 more.
Okay.
LA Noire Reefer Madness, the DLC.
When I tell you I have no recollection of reviewing LA Noire Reefer Madness.
You did. You reviewed it.
7 flat.
You're just making up numbers now. You have no idea. It's just no, you gave it. You gave it a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Okay, and Lego Batman 2 DC Superheroes.
Shit, that was a great one.
Remember, Mutant Blob Attacks got a 9 out of 10 from you.
First off, great. It's a great game, everybody. I'm sorry, Drinkbox, I couldn't remember how much I loved it.
And it's only $8.
Severed. They did Severed. Huh?
Okay, Lego Batman 2 DC Superheroes.
8.5.
Yes. Okay, I lied. We got a couple more.
You're just trying to catch me now.
I'm not going to catch you. I just love this. Okay, I want you to tell me what you gave NCAA football in 2013 and then NCAA football in 2014.
Oh my God. This feels like hell. This feels like I'm in purgatory.
You did this. Okay, and you have opinions on both of them.
7.8, and then I did a 7.3.
Okay, no. NCAA football, 8 out of 10. And then 14, 7.4.
Okay, see, I was right on the drop down.
Yeah, and the last one, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, the Da Vinci Disappearance.
Is that DLC as well?
That's DLC. They got you doing a lot of DLC.
7.7.
You gave it a 6.5.
Fuck.
Congratulations. I think that was pretty good under the circumstances.
Thank you.
So well done.
Closer than you'd expect.
And I suppose we don't really have much longer. Are you ever going to retire?
I hope not. You know, I think what's been beautiful about my career and my life is that I've been lucky enough to be aging alongside video games.
Yeah.
And of course, what I mean by that is that, and you've heard this too if you've been around a long time, right, is like I had a Sega Master System, but we'll just call it an NES for this argument. So it's like I've been there every step of the way. And so I've seen the adults who were the adults when I was a child look at games and go, oh, this is a kid's toy. And I've seen kids grow out of it and yada-da-da-da. I've gone all the way to where we are now, where even now, as gray as I am, thanks to Benjamin, right, as old as I am just because of time.
I think you're looking better.
Thank you. I agree. I'm looking better and better. Thanks to Jen for telling me to grow a beard.
One person applauded that. Do you hate the way he looks?
I think that we're still going to have it where when I'm 50, there are other 50-year-olds who are going to want to hear me talk about games.
Yeah.
And because I think my perspective will be the perspective they're looking for versus a younger thing. The argument in question then becomes making sure Kind of Funny's around when I'm that old, right? And that comes in, it works really well right now by having a Blessing, having a Mike, having a Barrett. Hey, these are younger folks who are playing things different than I am, have different experiences, like different things. And so the hope is that as they grow and mature, we either make more space or they go on to greener pastures and and you're able to bring in more people that keep the system going that way.
Is that what you want? You kind of want Kind of Funny to be a place that feels comfortable, that you can nurture more people through this? Or
1,000%. You know what I mean? I think that I say it all the time. And when I was getting my tattoo during Kind of Funny Day, you know, Blessing asked the question and the tattoo artist stopped to be like, is that really what you want? But it's like, my lifelong dream came true at 23. Like, I can ask for nothing more. So when people ask me now, what do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? Blah. I want to make the team's dreams come true.
Yeah.
I want to send Blessing and Roger over to meet Kojima and do this thing. I want to see them host things. I want to see them succeed, make their own properties, make their own mistakes, review the games they've always wanted to, or do something completely different, get outside of it, right? Like, I think the big thing, 10 years removed from starting Kind of Funny but breaking up with IGN, is the idea that I never want to have someone leave Kind of Funny, an employee, and have that chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
I want them to leave if they need to leave or want to leave and have it be, hey, I had a great time, they were great to me, but I gotta go see about this the way we felt.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be a negative thing.
Well, I mean, we are closing out, and I just want to say on behalf of the Kind of Funny best friends, thank you, because I think the platform that you have created and the community that you've created is incredibly welcoming. And as a person who really was, you guys got me through COVID. You got me through the overwhelming loneliness of being by myself and feeling like you have friends. And I think you've introduced me to so many new people, so many new perspectives, different games I never would have played. And I hope that after 10 years, you're going to go on and do 20 more, because 30, 50. I hope that you're nearly dead and still doing this. But
What's up, everybody?
You could do what? But thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for allowing everyone who's here to feel like they're a part of your journey and everyone else's journey. And it means a huge amount to so many people. And even those people that just lurk in chat and don't say anything. I lurk in chat like a weirdo half the time, and every now and again I'll message Tim and be like, "Hi, I'm watching." And thank you to everyone, all the kind of funny people back home. Like, thank you. It's amazing. You're amazing, and I really appreciate you as a professional, but also as a friend. So, congratulations to you. And
Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. That's the end of this. Greg, is there anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah, I mean, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, to be clear, if you didn't know, I would hope you know that, like, I end everything with, it's been our pleasure to serve you, but it's the honor of my life to serve you. Like, so it means so much to be here with you. And I don't even mean here. I mean just in your ears, on your screen. Like, I know what a sacred space we inhabit. So thank you for allowing me to live my dream for so long.